Board? Okay, we're going to start the podcast here. Hold on one moment.
Okay. Wow.
Whoops.
Stress OS presents life and leadership conversations with Lori Worthington. Join performance expert Lori Worthington as she shares ways for individuals and organizations to improve performance using workforce stress reduction as an integrated approach. Now, here's Lori.
Hello, and welcome everyone. I'm Lori Worthington. Welcome to today's new Life and Leadership Show. This is a new format that we're going to be sharing on KCTK radio here in Kansas City and out with the world.
And we're glad you're here, Lori.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us and allowing us to come and join the show. We are really, really excited about being able to talk about life and leadership and just all the things that we deal with that hopefully we can help reduce some stress in people's lives instead of adding stress to their world. But the goal of our show is to talk about life and leadership and to be able to share ideas about how we learn to stress less and enjoy our present lives the best ways we can. We're going to learn from each other, share ideas, and hopefully add some moments of joy through these conversations as we do them on the radio. So speaking of joy, one of my best friends' name is Joy, and we met in 1997, not long after we both moved to Kansas City's Northland, and we used to sit on opposite ends of the very, very back church pew. And we would each come in right before service started and we'd each get an end. And she had a daughter who was about 8. And we'd both sit there and we would maybe shake hands during the greeting and we would say bye and wave goodbye at the end of the service. And we both went our separate directions. And this was what went on for weeks and weeks. And then one day, we don't either one even remember why, we started talking. And we found out that we had a few things in common and thought, wow, maybe we should talk a little bit more. And we found out through that we had pretty similar senses of humor. And we both thought things were funny that most people don't. And we found out that we had a lot of just silly little ways that were very similar. But we also found out that we were both wishing for a friend that wasn't someone that we saw at work every day, because both of us had moved to Kansas City, kind of transplanted in. And so most of the people we knew were people that we worked with, fine people, but you want something separate in your life besides that. So we started a social relationship, and it would be years later that I found proof in all the research that we've done for Stress OS about the importance of good social relationships for both your physical health and your mental health. And evidentiary proof, studies after studies that show that good social relationships are one of 5 things you need to do to keep yourself healthy and be able to balance life and reduce the stress in your life. So relationships, we're going to come back to that in a bit and talk about some easy ways to make time for them and some easy ways that you can build relationships that you either already have in place, that you begin to feel like maybe they're just not what they used to be, or that you can make time to build some new ones. So back to Joy. So Joy is way more adventurous than me, right? She's the baby in the family. She had a far more active high school life than I did. She's just always been more adventurous than me. And we went to Worlds of Fun. And one of the things that I heard a lot from her that night at Worlds of Fun was, this ride isn't bad at all, which I learned actually meant hold on for dear life, because she was going to get you on the ride and then you were going to wish you hadn't trusted her and gotten on that ride. So years ago, she talked me into getting on the pirate ship. This is I think they call it the Voyager or something. It's a pirate ship, it's a huge ship, and it swings back and forth, and it just swings back and forth for a while. And she says, look, it just swings. It doesn't go that high. So let's get on. And she says, it'll be really safe. It's really easy. And we'll get to sit down for a little bit and this will be great. This was her sales pitch for this little ride. So I thought, it's got it. She says it's easy. She says it's fine. So we get on and I dutifully follow her onto the ship, kind of wishing I'd already said no. And then she goes to the very end of the ship and she sits down on the very last row at the back of the ship. And I'm thinking, okay, she must know the safe place to sit. Now, anybody who's ever been on one of these swinging boat rides at any amusement park anywhere is probably laughing at me already, because that this ride, you know what happens to people at the back of the boat? They go up the very highest all the time while sitting backwards because it backs you up to the very highest point. And that was me. And I didn't know until after I was strapped in and the ride was already going in full swing that this was what was about to happen to me. And then, of course, if you've been on those rides, it doesn't just happen once and then the rides start to slow down. In our case, it was probably a dozen times that night before they decided to start bringing the ride to a close. So turned out this little new stretch for me was good. It stretched me out of my comfort zone. It was fun. It's been more fun to talk about all these years. I mean, I tease her about it all the time. That, oh yeah, don't go to Worlds of Fun with Joy. But it strengthened our friendship, and we can mark this moment, this adventure, as a favorite moment in our relationship. And it's something that created a foundational moment for us that we've been able to look back on and laugh about. So as we think about life and leadership, and we think about relationships and how do you build those relationships, whether you're at work or you're in your personal life, some of these same lessons apply, right? Sometimes we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone a little bit, never outside our boundaries of what's, just those non-negotiables. You keep those in place, but we can push ourselves out of our comfort zone. What we might find out is it's more fun over there, or we'll have an adventure that we can laugh about with our friends, whether it's our colleagues at work or it's someone in our personal life, a new relationship that you're forming, maybe with your children, right? Kids always want to do things that we as grownups don't want to do. And sometimes our inner child gets to come out. Sometimes we just go, gosh, I remember why I don't do that anymore. Like the merry-go-round in my world. But it's important that we do this and that we find ways to kind of build some common ground in relationships. And so whether it's about life, whether it's about leadership, relationships are going to be a core element of everything that we do in life. And so as we think about those things, we want to look for those favorite moments. These should be scattered throughout your life and scattered through your relationships. There should be those memories, those moments, something special for no particular reason that becomes something that's a connection that you have with that person. I know for many years, I worked with a team of people in our operations team. And we had all these folks that reported to us, and we were responsible for operational things. So we got the crazy questions, like you realize that those pages need to be sorted before we hand them out, and so our standard word became really, like really, we need to do that, because they were such obvious instructions we were being given that it became this kind of sarcastic, really kind of moment. But I can't hear the term really without thinking about those spaces and that group of women that I worked with, that we became, that just became kind of our mantra, and I used to tease them that I was going to write a book someday. So when I write a book, it'll probably be called Really. But those moments create a bond, right? They create a coping mechanism when you have a stressful situation, and they create a familiar comfort for people that helps you get through a stressful situation, because you know that you've had those times and you've had those moments. And so when we think about life and leadership, we want to think about those things, finding and building good social relationships, and also building some favorite moments into those relationships. And the other thing I want to stress for just a second is that those favorite moments don't always have to be fun. Joy and I've had a lot of fun favorite moments in our 24 years of friendship, but we've also had some really intense, hard truth moments that were needed to help one of us get through really tough times. And these, we look back on, are some of our favorite times too. One of the times, and I'll share this really quickly, was like the time she was trying to help me get a perspective on a dating relationship that wasn't going well. He and I were kind of going in different directions, and I was, kind of having a pity party about it and not sure what I should think about it, and do I need to, let go of some of these ideas that I have and these ideals that I have. And she'd been over trying to help me feel better about life, and she walked down the front steps of my house, and she turned around to get in her car. And before she got in her car, she looked straight at me and she said, very matter of factly and fairly loudly, because she wanted to get my attention. She says, I have never seen doormat written across your forehead. And it was that verbal kind of slap upside the head that I needed to really kind of snap me into a new way of looking at things. Because why did she say it? Well, she knew that it needed to be something pretty startling to get my attention and to force me to look at the situation differently, and from a place that my personal values that I held dear and viewed as non-negotiables could really stand out to me. She knew that it was something that had to be said by a friend that I trusted, because I wouldn't hear it from anybody else. And she was right. And I mean, and it did its job. My pity party had to end, a new perspective had to be framed, and healthy relationships and activities had to replace this not so great situation that I had allowed to kind of take over my mental health and my emotional health in my life. And so, we look back at that, moment, and we'll occasionally, just look at each other and say, I don't think you're a doormat. Because we have had situations in our life since then that we've repeated that kind of familiar phrase. And no one else in the world until now, as I'm sharing it with all of you, would have any idea when we talk about not being a doormat, that we had such an intense history there. And so I think it's really important to recognize that when we have these moments in life and in leadership, in these relationships, some of our favorite moments are going to be those defining times, those moments when we looked at each other and we said, no more, or we said, not this time, or nope, there's a better way, or there's a different way of looking at this, and always looking to bring out the best in the others around us and in the situation. And so I think that those are, just for you to know that relationships are going to have, they're roller coaster. They're going to have some ups and downs. They're going to have some difficult moments, but it's in those moments that you confirm that this is a person that has the values that are important. It's a person that has your best interest at heart, and it's a person you can trust. And whether that's at work or that's in your personal life, those are really essential measures of relationship. And if you are in a leadership role and you're thinking about how do you build a leadership professional relationship with the teams that work for you, with your peers, with your colleagues, it's the same principles. They have to know that you are consistent, that you are the same, that you're not going to be changing every little bit based on the people that you're around and the situations that you're in, that your values are stable and the same, and that you are working to build relationship with them, to build that trust and to help them know they're supported. And I think that those are the things that we get busy trying to be everybody's friend at work. And if you're a boss and you're responsible for hiring and firing people, you cannot be their best friend at work. You can be a trusted advisor. You can be a close, trusted leader for them, but you have to keep a line of respect there for them and them for you, that keeps that line defined. And so I think you have to do the same thing with your children, right? The relationship you have with your children is different than the relationship you have with your spouse or your partner, that help bring those children and parent those children, because you do have different relationships there. You can make some rules for your children that you probably should not be making for your spouse or partner. And if you are making them for your spouse or partner, that's probably not a really healthy situation. So relationships are super important. And those good social relationships are good for your physical and mental health. They are one of the 5 essential things, healthy habits that you need to have for good physical and mental health, and to lower your stress. I can tell you, lowering your stress, takes 5 consistent habits They include, nutrition, activity. So, that exercise word that none of us are huge fans of sometimes, sleep and making sure we get adequate sleep, our technology and making sure that we're using it appropriately and we're using it, we're not letting it replace relationships. And then those good social relationships. I like to add the sixth piece, which is gratitude, that we're thinking about, things that we're thankful for, and the people in our lives that we enjoy and that are helping us, really be good to ourselves and around the people and to the people around us are also folks that we should be grateful for and think about that gratitude. So with that, let's take just a little bit of time and think about some ideas for good social relationships. So I'm going to just mention these. You can apply these to family. You can apply these to extended family. We're headed to a family reunion soon. Apply these to work. Apply these to people at church or people in the associations or organizations that you interact with. But these are things that are important to help you build good social relationships, and more importantly, and also take care of yourself, right? One of those is enjoy a meal, a snack, or a drink together. Here in the Midwest, it seems like social life always involves some sort of food or beverage. So not a terribly big stretch for us to do that. But for your own good health, and for less stress, try to make sure at least 5 times a week you're eating with someone. That doesn't mean you have to eat out for dinner every night, unless you've been looking for a good excuse to do that, and I'll be your excuse. But it's important that whether, that you have some meals with someone, that you're not always eating alone. And at work, if you're at work, that means sometimes building into your schedule time to go eat a meal with those coworkers, to go eat a meal with other people at the office. Even though you'd rather sit and work at your desk, you need to build those social relationships. And there's something about building them around food that just works. It's built into us as humans. There's a reason that, if you look back to ancient times, you look in the Bible, you look in about any sort of old, manuscripts, food and celebration have always gone together. And so it's part of what's built into our human genome, is to have this social connection around nourishment. And so make sure that you're making time to do that. And be sure that you dine with somebody that you enjoy and that you want to spend time with. Or if you're at work or, in some sort of other setting, a club, an association, a networking group that maybe you're part of, these are great opportunities to get to know someone a little bit better. Joy and I sat for weeks at church every week, never saying more than hi and bye to each other. And we have all of that time, and it was probably only about 6 months, but it's 6 months of time that we could have been having a friend to do something with instead of going home and eating alone. And so those are the things that, just stretching yourself out of your comfort zone, or maybe inviting someone to stretch themselves out of theirs. You'll be surprised at how many people eat alone at work because they don't want to have a rejection of asking someone if they can sit with them. We see it, in like high school musicals and high school age movies all the time, but we as grownups carry that with us, and we still sometimes tag it into the way that we treat relationships at work and in life. So do things you enjoy doing together. So a walk, watching a movie. For work, sometimes I used to, with some of my team, do what I called a walk and talk. And we would take a walk outside for our 2:00 meeting, and we'd take a walk, and we'd be able to walk, whether it was around the block, and obviously you do this in safe parts of the cities that you live in, but we'd be able to do that and to walk and talk, and you're able to get that exercise and that vitamin D into your skin from the sun, and you just kind of come back with a fresh perspective. You feel refreshed and renewed differently than when you sit in a meeting and do that. So whether you're doing that on the treadmill next to someone at the office, or you're doing that at home, give yourselves time to do something different than the normal. Oh, we have a meeting, let's sit in a room, or we've got to talk about what we're going to do with the kids summer daycare for the last half of the summer. Let's, don't do that at the dining room table. Do that someplace differently where you've got kind of a new setting around you. It could be riding a bike, discussing books. Book clubs are great for that. Playing cards. You get the picture. But the big trick there, it needs to be something that you enjoy so that you can be glad you spent your valuable time doing it. right? Because it can't become a meaningful moment, or even strengthen a relationship if the whole time you're doing it, you're wishing you were able to be doing something else, because then you're not fully invested in the moment. Try something new. When you're with a friend you trust completely, or you're with coworkers who want to try something new that's maybe outside your comfort a bit. Again, never ever violate your moral code and your principles and your values. But if it doesn't do that, maybe you find out that it's something that you really enjoy, or that you're willing to do every so often because it's so important to them and they really, really love doing it. I think this gets really important when you're thinking about your spouse or your partner, and doing some things. It's just because they love to do it and they want you to be a companion to that. Or for your children, doing something because your child loves to do it, and for them it's super, super special to get to share it with you, whether you think it's that great or that fun or not. I know my son has a series of videos on YouTube that he loves, that it's these, it's people who pretend that they've got dinosaurs on their ranch and that they are capturing dinosaurs. And he loves, loves, loves these videos. And for him, he wants me to sit right beside him sometimes and watch those videos with him. Not that I haven't seen most of them a dozen times or far more than that by now, but it's a special thing that's his thing that he can share with me. And I sit, he usually wants my arm around him, and so we get to cuddle a little bit while we do it. But I've had to learn to enjoy that, because it is something that is so important to him that he wants to have that time. And so whether you're at work, whether you're with your spouse, your kids, your parents, as parents age, what those fun things are that they want to do become things that many times we have to decide that it's important because they really, really love doing it and they want to share it with you as their child. You've got to be open to those things. And so sometimes it's choosing to enjoy them because that person that you love really, really enjoys it. But whatever those things are, meals, activities, something that's a little bit new, be present in the moment with your full focus, because otherwise you don't really engage. If you've got one eye on the phone, you've got one eye on your email at work, you're looking at your game controller, your other technical device, you're distracted and you're not able to give someone your full attention. So I used to work for a gentleman who was a technology leader. So he had a super full plate. One of the things that I thought was so great about him is every time you came in to meet with him, he moved away from his desk chair and he sat in a guest chair on the other side of his desk alongside you, so that he couldn't look at his email, because he didn't want to get distracted by everything that was pinging him in email. And so for that 15 minutes that you were in his room, maybe 30 minutes, you were getting his full attention as much as he could focus in that moment, but at least giving you the body language and the knowledge that he was paying attention to you, and what you were saying, not the 20 things buzzing on his desk. So tips for all of us to think about. And we all hold on to technical devices far more than we should, or at least the people that I know, including myself, do that. So no condemnation here. This is about how do we all, improve ourselves a little bit in the land of life and leadership. So real quickly, a technical moment for parents and partners. Some evening here in the next week, just look at your evening, look at kind of what happens in your evening or your afternoon, whatever time you're all home together, and look at that. What are you doing? Are you holding on to that device, that gadget, all evening long? Are you answering yes, no, sure, fine, whatever, to stories that you don't even really sure what the words were, but you're not really participating in the conversation, you're just pretending that you are? Those are kind of early warning signs you can catch for yourselves and go, gosh, I'm not being as present with these people that I love and value as I want to be. So use that checkpoint to say, gosh, can I put it down for a little bit of time? Can I make sure I give a little bit more attention? Can I be a little bit more present to the humans in the room? Children really need this. Children need to see your eyes listening to them. And I see this with our son all the time, right? They need to see your eyes are on them and you're paying attention to them. and reacting to their news, their story, their touch, whatever that may be. And for spouses and partners, if you look back, I bet when you first met that you held hands a whole lot more when you were dating than you do on any given evening that you have a time to yourselves at home. We've become so used to having to respond, and COVID-19 and us having the ability to work from home, which is great. But if you've looked at the data, most of us working from home worked harder and were more productive than at the office. And that privilege of being able to work from home actually connected us to our devices even more. So what we have now is we have to break the habit of still looking at those devices at every time of day and giving ourselves room to set those down for a bit, have a conversation, look people in the eye, say, gosh, it's good to talk to you. It's good to have a real conversation, and listen and hear and see what someone else is saying, see what their body language is saying, not just their words and their voice, because then you get the whole story. So back to relationships. Building favorite moments, things you'll look back at and be glad that you shared. I think this is so important, really with everybody in our lives, to have those things that you can look back at and be glad that you shared. You know, we have mother in our family that just got diagnosed with cancer. And one of the things that we did here just a few months ago was we did some picture albums with her long before we knew she had the cancer. But we did some picture albums with her where she got to tell stories and she got to talk about what these things meant. She got to share those with kids in the family. And I look back now and see that that was just such an important moment. It was important for us because we got to hear the stories and have that moment. But I think it was probably even more important for her because she got to tell those stories and be able to share that. And now looking back, she doesn't have to wish she'd been able to impart that information because she's at least started the process. So things you don't even register as a special moment, something that you just see as something you got to check off your list today, that you need to be able to check it off and get everybody to bedtime and then get everything ready to go tomorrow morning when, you know, the alarm goes off and people go in all different directions. Some of those very things may become a special moment or a favorite moment that was meaningful to someone that matters to you. Sometimes it's at work, it's as simple as saying thank you. One of my first bosses, every single day when I said, okay, I'm going to head out, she would call me by name. She would stop what she was doing and she would say, thank you for all the work you did today. And it's 30 plus years later, and I still remember those moments. I can still see her face saying, thank you for the work you did today, because she was the first person who really ever made that big of an effort at work to do that. And it became one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I tried to do. And I know I didn't get it done every day with the large team of people that I had working for me once upon a time. But I try to make sure that I am saying thank you frequently and giving people that acknowledgement. So make sure that you, as you think about, and as we kind of wrap up here, things I would encourage you to do as you kind of look ahead is to think about what's on your list of favorite moments and who have those moments been with. You know, and to think about who do you want to spend time making favorite moments with? Who are those relationships that you wish you had more time for? Because good relationships help us grow and stay balanced. They help us balance at work. They help us balance at home. They improve our physical and our mental health, and they help us live better lives and become better leaders, whether that's leaders in our family, or leaders in our workplace, or leaders in our community organizations. It might be your PTA, your church, you know, your Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever association you're part of. We all have something to lead in, and that, you know, can always be in leading in good, healthy relationships. So as we wrap up, I challenge you to invest in those relationships that can help restore the sparkle to your eyes. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and it's in Psalms 13:3, and it says, restore the sparkle to my eyes. And then it talks about how that helps us feel joy and how that helps us feel whole. And so I leave you with that. Thanks for tuning in to Life and Leadership, sponsored by Stress OS. I'm Lori Worthington, encouraging you to stay positive and keep moving forward. God bless you and keep you.
Thanks again for listening to Life and Leadership Conversations presented by Stress OS. You can contact Lori at hello@stressos.com or at 816-800-1484 with your comments or questions. Join us next time for more Life and Leadership Conversations. Life and Leadership Conversations has been a KCTK production, produced by Lori Worthington and Paul Lavoda, all rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.